This is John Jackson Miller, and you're listening to the Star Wars Canon Podcast. May the Force be with you.
There are stories about what happened.
It's true. All of it.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to this episode of the Star Wars Canon Podcast, episode number 56. I am your host, Brian Miller, and I'm so glad you've decided to join us to talk about our favorite thing in the world, yet again, Star Wars. Guys, we've got a big show for you this week, and to help me navigate this massive list of show notes that we've got put together is my good friend, my partner in crime on this podcast, Mr. Usef Waly. How's it going, brother?
Hey, from all the way over here. I'm doing really good. I'm really excited as well. We got a lot to talk about. It's an exciting time to be a Star Wars fan. And, I know we didn't talk about this before the episode, but there's a lot of shit happening in the world. We would never, ever want to be people who sort of didn't really take that into account. We do wish anybody going through any struggle, we wish you all the best and all the strength, and may the Force be with you. We're just here to make sure that we can talk about what we love most and hope that you can take some time out of your busy schedules to feel good about yourselves and immerse yourselves into some amazing stuff. And we hope that we're just part of your journey.
Absolutely. You know, because when I started doing the podcast, what is going off? My phone's going off. When I started the podcast, I wanted it to be an escape for,
Exactly.
for what was going on in the world and a place where people could go to forget about all the troubles in the world for a little while. So, yeah, no, we're with you guys. If there's something, I mean, we know there's, like you said, there's a lot of shit going on in the world right now, and it's absolutely horrible. But just know that if you guys are on the receiving end of any of that, we are definitely on your side. And like Usef said, may the Force be with you guys. So. Yeah, we've got a lot to talk about this episode. I started putting the show notes together, Usef, and this show just grew and grew and grew. And then even after I put together the show notes, another mailbag question came in. I was like, crap, we have to include that in the show. It was such a good mailbag question. So I ended up altering the show notes. Pray I alter it no further. So before we get going, though, before we start talking about all the big stuff, because you guys know, we already know what you guys are here to talk about. You guys want to talk about Obi-Wan. We want to talk about Obi-Wan. But before we get into that, I want to let you guys know about 1138productions.com. I'm going to get this out of the way real quick, and then we'll get into this. So 1138productions.com is the home of this podcast now. It's the home of the Marvel Cast. The JG and Stephen Hall are doing a great job over there at the Marvel Cast, keeping you guys up to date on what's going on in the MCU. But 1138 Productions is also a great place to go check out the Star Wars Canon timeline, where we finally got it up to date. It's more accurate than it ever has been before. Currently working on a Star Wars Legends timeline. What's nice about that one is once we get it done, it's done. And Richard J has done an amazing job of putting that timeline together for me. All I'm doing now is converting it over to the same format as the Canon one. That way they look, you don't get confused by different formats on different timelines. So the Star Wars Legends timeline is coming. Actually, I'm pretty sure I can get it done this weekend. I said that last week, and I didn't get to it. Some personal things popped up. So this weekend, I should be able to get to it. There's a Halo timeline on there now. And it's for the Prime, I guess you would call it the Prime timeline for Halo. Because Halo, we get the TV series coming, but it's going to be in a different timeline, and they're called the Silver timeline. So it's not going to be in the same universe as the games. Even though it's got Master Chief in it, I know there's probably somebody screaming at me telling me, yes, it is, Master Chief's in it, but they've already come out and said it's a different timeline. Usef, you and I are going to sit down eventually and start working on Assassin's Creed timeline.
Exactly,
with the games and the novels. And then Star Trek was also suggested, which kind of, I don't like to say the word Trek on this podcast because it's a Star Wars podcast. I know how you guys feel about that. But we're also going to be working on a Marvel Cinematic Universe timeline as well, with all the shows and everything in chronological order. So if you guys have any ideas for a franchise or a universe that you would like to see a timeline made for, go to 1138productions.com/contact and let us know. Send us a message off the website and let us know what universe you would like to see have a timeline made of. So definitely go check out 1138productions.com. I think it looks great. I'm ecstatic with it. And it's a good place to not only catch this podcast, but the Marvel Cast, I know I said that, but also the YouTube videos for the 1138 Productions channel. So all that out of the way, let's get into the meat and potatoes of this episode, because this is what everybody wants to talk about. Usef, we finally got the Obi-Wan Kenobi trailer.
We got it.
We finally got it.
Freaking got it, and it looks so cool. And listen, like people wanted to see even more. No, you didn't. No, you did. This was such a good teaser. This was such an amazing first look. I was so excited, and there was this meme about what was that guy? Marsh from South Park, just sort of like covered in his own ecstatic stuff, juices, just because of how amazing it felt to hear Duel of the Fates come on, and then Ewan McGregor's face, the lightsabers, the stuff. Oh, guys, this is so good. I'm so excited. Now, of course, Obi-Wan is genuinely. I know it's easy to say this now. He's genuinely if I had to choose one favorite Star Wars character, it's Obi-Wan Kenobi. It is extremely close between him and three others, but he is genuinely my favorite. And the thing is, right, that he represents so much for us. He represents so much for the whole Star Wars process, for the Force, for how amazing it is, and for us to be able to get this part of his time, we need more of him.
Yeah.
And I just can't wait to see it. I can't wait to see it.
I lost my mind over this trailer, and like you said, the Duel of the Fates playing, and so that morning, what day was it? Tuesday, I told everybody in the 1138 Productions chat, I was like, yeah, we're probably getting a trailer tomorrow because it's the Disney Investors Call. And then Wednesday morning, the Obi-Wan Kenobi Twitter page simply tweeted out, "Hello there," and that's all it took. That's all it took.
Perfect.
And everybody started freaking out. Yeah, thank you. And everybody started freaking out. And then Entertainment Weekly dropped their article with a bunch of photos and the cover of Entertainment Weekly this week of Obi-Wan. And we finally got our first. That was actually our first look at Obi-Wan. Several screenshots that I absolutely loved. My favorite one, though, believe it or not, didn't even have Obi-Wan in it. It was Uncle Owen staring down the Inquisitor.
That was a cool one.
I loved that
very,
photo.
very cool.
And
oh yeah,
the fact that we're getting this much Uncle Owen on Tatooine, I'm excited. I don't think, based off the trailer alone, I don't think we're going to stay on Tatooine very long. I think it's going to.
Oh yeah,
I think the first two episodes
exactly.
are going to be Tatooine, and then it's out. Yeah. Oh, there's so much.
People don't understand how much we saw in that trailer. We saw a lot in that trailer, by the way.
New planets. I mean, yeah, no, the planet. I don't remember what the name of the planet was, but they said they modeled it after like Hong Kong, with all the neon lights and everything, and kind of that underground kind of feel. And it looks awesome. It looks absolutely amazing. Ewan McGregor looks amazing as Obi-Wan. I really thought he'd be a little more gray, but I like it. He looks good. He looks like a Jedi who's seen some shit and who has been through just torment. But the biggest of these Entertainment Weekly photos that we got was the one we got the day after the trailer came out, which, well, actually, it was after, was it last night or today that we got the picture? I think it was last night.
It was last night. It was yesterday, yeah.
We got our first look at Vader from the Obi-Wan series, and
so good.
All it is the outline of him, and that's all it takes. Like, that's all it took.
And that is all it takes. That is all it takes.
But what's cool about it is to know that it's actually Hayden Christensen in the suit this time, right, just like he was in Episode 3, and it just seems right, you know. But going back to the trailer, this thing, seeing, you know, like I said, Uncle Owen staring down the Inquisitor, but seeing her activate the lightsaber in front of him, he's holding his hands up, you know, like, oh crap, no, I don't want any part of this kind of thing. Seeing stuff like that, and dude, and what about the money shot, right? Seeing Luke on the Lars homestead, pretending he's pod racing, knowing that he's the same age in this as Anakin was in Episode 1, there's no words, man. There are no words.
It was perfect. It was him, like,
it was
just
good.
That little bit. Obi-Wan was looking at him through those binoculars, and then Luke is there. Luke. The young, you know, he was just sitting there as a kid,
being a kid.
Playing with the helmet. Yeah.
Yeah.
And he was just sort of like playing around, like sort of flying around young Luke. It was just amazing.
It was great. And the day before the trailer dropped, I remember Steven asked us in the chat what were our bets on seeing Luke in the trailer. And I said 50-50 because I had this feeling like you have to establish. We knew he was going to be in the series. That was obvious. But you have to establish that this is where Obi-Wan has been. This is why this is why he's where he is. And
those are the first few seconds of the trailer. Stay hidden, stay careful, stay whatever. Because this is what we know is happening, right? He's staying hidden. He's watching over. He's being careful. That's that, right? But then comes, okay, so what else is happening? And then you see this array of these scenes, and the Inquisitors come in, and the Inquisitors look so cool. And the droids, the new droids as well.
Oh, yeah, the
These
droids
new
look
models,
awesome.
which we've never seen before. And so I want to understand this as well. So the Grand Inquisitor, he was the guy with the double-bladed lightsaber in the trailer, wasn't he?
The spinning saber, yeah.
Exactly. So, and then there's like the shootout on the roof, rooftops in the city, which is like modeled after Hong Kong, as you say, and it's just really cool. But then this next bit has us all, a little bit, what's the word? We're tentative about this whole thing, which is stirring the pot. Which Captain Kennedy apparently saying something like along the lines of, "Well, we could do more Obi-Wan content.
Yeah.
Only
don't,
it just depends."
Don't tease us. Don't tease us with
Exactly,
that.
right? Exactly. So
hell?
basically, what happened was she was discussing this point about. So are we going to get more Obi-Wan content? Is this only a limited series? Is only one season? And her answer was basically, "Oh, we could give you more if it's worth it. If there's going to be content that's worth it." She wasn't talking about money, by the way. Of course, everything goes back to money with her and Disney and everything, which makes sense.
Right.
Not gonna.
Oh yeah, money
talks.
talks.
Not gonna stab her for this. Money talks, of course. But the thing is, right? She was genuinely talking about content. She was genuinely talking about content being effective as well.
Mm-hmm.
It's not just about content; it's about good content. Especially with a character like Obi-Wan. We cannot overstress how fragile this actually is. This is actually very sensitive and fragile. If you mistreat it, you're done.
Oh,
you're
done. Right. There's so much writing on this. It is like a
piece of paper, man. So paper, imagine how many times you grab a piece of paper in your hand at work or whatever, and it's not ruined, right? You just take it from office to office. But then actually, if you look at it really closely, you could see some dark smudges because your hands were in the dirt.
Mm-hmm.
You maybe crumpled it up. You might even tear it because you handled it a little bit angrily because you weren't paying attention. That's exactly how Obi-Wan is. If you mistreat him, if you mishandle him, that's not going to go away, ever.
Right.
We can pretend, as fans out there who don't like the sequel trilogy, sure, you can pretend like that it doesn't exist because you have a lot of other content to look at, so distract yourself, act like this doesn't exist, go back to Book of Boba Fett and Mando, go back to sort of another series that you may think, go back to a few other movies, read the comics, read some more novels, get really immersed in some of the new novels we're going to be talking about. That's perfectly fine. You can imagine, you can pull the sequel trilogy out of there, but Obi-Wan is core. Yeah. He really is core. I can't pretend like he's not core. You cannot imagine, because the way Star Wars was for such a long time, you can't just throw away the original trilogy. You can't just say, right. I'm not gonna take a look at what happens in between episode 4 and 5. I'm not gonna take a look at this novel or this story or whatever. Technically, they all happened, and Obi-Wan is so core. There's no way that this is not imperative to the legacy of Star Wars entirely.
Oh yeah, and the fact that it's so anticipated. And there's so many people that have got their hopes up for this show, especially coming off of Boba Fett, which was kind of divisive, and
we were all, I think, correct me if I'm wrong, I think you were too, much more excited for this than for a potential new trilogy.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, because so how many episodes is this?
Obi-Wan will be 6. 6 1-hour episodes.
At least an hour each, potentially more. This is a trilogy.
It is. This is our Obi-Wan trilogy that everybody wanted. Yeah. This is it.
Our Obi-Wan trilogy. An hour, 6 episodes, an hour each is 6 hours. A movie's generally 2 hours. There you go.
Right.
3 2-hour movies.
Yeah, no, you're absolutely right. And, oh, God. Yeah, no, this is my most anticipated part of, I don't want to say thing in Star Wars this year. This is, of television and movies and animation. Even, I'll include animation with it. This is my most anticipated. Novels, that's a different story because we already know there's a novel coming out that I'm losing my mind over. But this series, it's like you said, it's got to hit the ground running. Oh, I shouldn't say hit the ground running. It's got to stick the landing. It has to.
Yes,
it absolutely has to, because if this fails, then there's no hope. Like there is no hope. I will say this though, and I want to get your thoughts on this, Usef. First off, let me go back to Book of Boba Fett for a second. You remember Cad Bane, the whole thing with why didn't he look like he did in Clone Wars, and we fixed him and all. Okay, you remember how I defended Lucasfilm saying no, it translates differently when you go from animation to live action. Got no problem with that. It doesn't bother me.
And that makes complete sense, yeah.
But I'll say this, and I think out of the 1138 guys, I think I'm in the minority here. I'm not one of those guys that's pissing and moaning about it, but I am not thrilled with the way the Grand Inquisitor looks in the trailer. It's because look, I contrary to popular belief, I don't sit here and just love everything that Lucasfilm does. Once in a while, there's something comes along I don't like, and I got to tell you guys about it. And I'm not thrilled with this. And the analogy I gave in the chat when we were talking was, you know, we've already seen a live action version of the Utapauans in Episode 3, and the Grand Inquisitor in Rebels was modeled after that look with the tall, elongated head. That's what he looked like. And then you translate it back to live action again, and something got lost in translation somewhere. And the analogy I used was, if you take an English phrase, right? Let's just say, "May the Force be with you." I don't know. And translate it into, say, Chinese, something that's entirely different than English. To a Chinese person, you'll get the point across. But then if you take the Chinese phrase and convert it back into English, it's something completely different. It's not even close to being the same thing. And I feel like that's what happened with the Grand Inquisitor. His species got translated really well from Episode 3 into animation. It looked great. And then when you went to translate it back into English, what the hell? You know, I just... And I put on the Twitter account earlier the pictures of Cad Bane between Aduros that we saw in Episode 4 in the Cantina, Cad Bane live action, and Cad Bane Clone Wars. I did the same thing with the Grand Inquisitor. I'm just not digging the way the Inquisitor looks, man. What are your thoughts on it? Am I really in the minority with the group?
No, you're not. I didn't. I mean, I agreed with you the first time that, like, Cad Bane, you know, guys, these characters do look differently because of the way everything is shot and because of the way people are doing things. Not only, I mean, if you're animating something, we saw characters change the way they look technically between Clone Wars and Rebels.
Yeah.
You know, so it's perfectly okay because it was just different technology. Maybe it was a different animator. Maybe the staff was a little bit different, that kind of thing. But also because the take of the director on the character might change just a little bit. So because Cad Bane in the Book of Boba Fett, I still don't know whether or not he totally died or not.
Oh, I know he's still alive. You wouldn't just kill him off, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. But that's the thing. He was intense in Book of Boba Fett. So you had to feel that intensity because Clone Wars, I had just recently, if anybody's been listening to the podcast for a while, knows that this was my first ever viewing of the Clone Wars entirely, like at all of the series, right? I had seen the movies before, but I hadn't seen the series at all, like none of it. So when I saw it all, I lacked that bit of intensity, of excitement. I saw it as more of a Cartoon Network kids show, but I loved Star Wars, so I wanted to see the characters. So it was all the same concepts and Force and the Force and, you know, all of the trainings and everything and the fighting and the genocide that was going on and the political mastermind that was truly Darth Sidious and Palpatine and everything. But I lost that bit of intensity, and clearly that's what they wanted, and that's what they got with Cad Bane, with the actor, the way they did it, and the teeth and the eyes and everything. But I wasn't upset with it being different at all from the way it looked. However, you know, now seeing what they could do with characters, exactly, sort of as Brian makes it out, you could have made this character, the Grand Inquisitor. His race has already been in Star Wars live action. So really ought to have been less of a transition here.
Yeah, it's just... I'm sure it'll be fine. Like, it's one of those things, I'm a firm believer in suspension of disbelief. you have to be to watch Star Wars. You know what I mean? To care about this universe and stuff, you have to have a level of suspension of disbelief, and that has to be taken into account while looking at. And I get that translating an animated character to live action. I get it. It's not going to look right. I get it. Totally get it. But in my opinion, Lucasfilm has always prided itself on its practical effects and the way it brings things to life. Think about Episode 7 for a second, just for an example. Episode 7, there is a shot on Jakku toward the beginning when Rey is coming back in the Nima outpost. You see this bird with this big beak pecking on a piece of metal with sparks flying off of it. How long did it take somebody to build that just for a 2-second shot? You know what I'm saying? But we can't get the Inquisitor right. Like, I don't know. It's just, I'm sure it'll be fine. It's not going to make me rip my shirt and scream at the sky and say, no, F you. You know, I'm not going to do that. But it did have me a little worried. The rest of the Inquisitors I really didn't care about. But the Grand Inquisitor, you got to get him right. And he's a big character in Rebels. We know he ends up going toe-to-toe with Kanan. And we know how he ends. And we know later on, after his end, where he ends up in the comics. I don't know. I'm hoping that maybe Lucasfilm is hearing everybody complain about this, and I can't believe I'm saying this, because usually I'm on the other end of the fight for this. I'm hoping they Sonic the Hedgehog him, where they go, oh crap, no, everybody really hated that, and they go back and fix it. If not, it's not the end of the world. But it's one thing that kind of left a bad taste in my mouth. And seeing the fortress for the Inquisitors that we saw in Jedi Fallen Order, so awesome.
Amazing. Like watching that, watching that fighter jet sort of just go into that base, It looked amazing.
Oh god, this show's gonna be so great.
Lucasfilm Star Wars does have an amazing knack for this, like creating. They seem to be similar, but it does have an amazing knack for building evil bases.
Right. Oh
so
god,
like,
yeah.
The base on Exegol and this one and Darth Vader's lair as well with the lava back on.
Oh yeah.
They all have this sort of like central. It's like a big, huge, big ass tower. And there's a tiny little central little sliver with a platform where you can land on. But it still looks cool every single time, no matter what variation it is. And it goes back to this sort of thing, even back with the Nazis and everything, like architecture, which is meant to be imposing. Like the pharaohs did this, the Nazis did this, temples did this in general. You know, the bigger it is, the wower it is. Mm-hmm. And not just big and wow, but also an unexpected entrance, you know, something that is sort of out of norm. Because that's kind of a lot to do with architecture in general. Architecture on Earth today in our civilization. I love how I'm saying on Earth as if there's like architecture elsewhere as well. But this thing of like having and I work in construction, right? So I see this all the time, that there's always standards and norms that we're used to. If something is just a little bit off, you feel something. You have a different sort of feeling going in. It's not just funky or jazzy or new or something. No, you have an emotional reaction as well.
Right.
It either feels weird or it feels interesting, and it starts pulling you in even more. This is with any sort of creative changes to any building. This is construction and architecture speak here. So especially when it's something in this kind of concept, when it's fiction, but it's also, you know, something that's out of this world's fiction. It's not just fiction. It's not like we're talking about like a temple somewhere, like in Indiana Jones or whatever. No, you're talking about a planet somewhere else entirely, with different races and everything. With spaceships and different, you know, concepts of reality and the Force and whatnot.
And then you've got the other end of the spectrum, where you've got places like Mount Tannis in the Bad Batch, the cloning facility that was teased at the end of the first season, just hidden in a rock where you'll never see it. You know what I mean? Like they go both ends of the spectrum. But yeah, you're right. I mean, to see some of these fortresses they've built, it's just awesome. And I will say this, Vader had a castle in Legends also, but it was on a planet, oh crap, I bet people are screaming at me right now. I don't remember the name of the planet, but I know that planet had acid rain. I know that. Oh. But he had a castle, but it looked completely different. And so when they did the canon version of it, Mustafar just made sense. You know what I mean? Like, it just, and the fact that he built his fortress on the location where he became Vader, where he can look out the window and see the spot where Obi-Wan cut his arm and legs off and left him for dead, to fuel that hatred.
In Legends, are you talking about Vune or Vune?
Oh, Vajun. Vajun, that was it. Yes.
Vajun,
yes, Vajun. That was the name of the planet. Yes, thank you. Yep, that was the name of it. But the fact that he built his fortress on Mustafar, right? So he can basically meditate and look out the window and just get pissed off at Obi-Wan for doing what he did to him. It's great. But no, anyway, going back to this Obi-Wan stuff. This is fanatic. I'm a fanatic over this. I can't wait.
Yeah, I mean, the only thing that I do have to add, by the way, to Obi-Wan in general is that you mentioned something in passing right now, that you sort of know how the Grand Inquisitor is going to end up, and we know how Obi-Wan's going to end up. We know how most of like the main point is going to end up.
Mm-hmm.
So what this has to be is a true experience of insight.
Yeah.
And, it's going to give us insight into what else was going on. It's going to give us more. Somebody had asked in a mailbag question about Book of Boba Fett early on in the season, and they had asked, what are you expecting? And my answer was simply, I think all of ours really, was simply wait until the end of the season to find out what it's going to give us.
Mm-hmm.
Mando wasn't just, at the first season of Mando, Mando was just giving us more. But then we saw the dark side. We were like, oh, shit, something's up, And then in the second season, we saw not just more of Mando, more of stuff, more of Star Wars meat, but also something that might potentially move along other parts of the huge Star Wars story here,
Mm-hmm.
And then Book of Boba Fett as well sort of did a little bit of that. So it's sort of like stepping stones, and large stepping stones as well, which also gave you a lot of stuff to talk about in Star Wars. So it's giving you experiences. It's giving you stuff to experience so that you can tell the story in better light.
Mm-hmm.
Now, this has to be more along the same lines, only with extremely important core characters. I mean, you've got Vader and Obi-Wan. What else do you need? You need everyone who's satelliting around them. So, yeah, I can't wait to see, this show. In terms of, if anybody was expecting to, or if anybody was going to ask this question, what are you expecting to see from this show, or from these 6 episodes of Obi-Wan Kenobi? It is simply, I want to transcend back into Obi-Wan's lifestyle. I want to transcend and see. To be honest, I really, really want to see Darth Sidious. I really want to see him.
Oh God, yeah.
And Vader. I really want to, I am a sucker for villains and baddies. If you haven't already listened to me rant about them on the show, you will do in a bit, because we're talking about them a lot later, soon. But yes, later on the show, we'll be talking about this, because I am a huge fan of villains. I think not a single story will ever succeed without the right villain in it, because otherwise that hero doesn't have right cause, doesn't have anything. So for me to really see this show enhance our view of Obi-Wan, I gotta see not just Vader, I gotta see a little bit of Darth Sidious as well. Yeah, that's my 2 cents on the matter for now.
I want to be able to watch Obi-Wan, these 6 episodes, and then go back and watch A New Hope in an entirely different light. I just want to see.
I think that's a little overshooting, don't you think?
Oh no,
really?
I don't, because we're going to talk about it a little bit here in a mailbag question coming up. But there are a lot of things that. Yeah, we'll just talk about the mailbag question when we get around to it. I don't want to get into it now. Okay. So, but yeah,
I think I know what you're talking about. But yeah, let's get to it later.
Yeah, no, okay. So moving on, you were talking about villains. If you guys listened to last week's episode, you guys know that Usef wasn't with me. I flew solo last week, and we were going to start last week, but I decided to hold off. I didn't want to start it because this was Usef's idea to do, and it's an awesome idea. So we're going to start it this week, and Usef, I want to let you take the reins on this and run with it, brother.
I appreciate that. I will take all props I can get. Thank you for that. Now, the thing is, right, that I just mentioned it. I love a good villain. And one of the reasons why I've loved Star Wars so much, I got into Star Wars right around the time when Episode 3 came out in theaters. And I wanted to understand more about Star Wars in general. So I watched a whole marathon on TV and then saw Episode 3 in theaters here in Egypt. And it was amazing. It was amazing. I was born in the 90s. I was born in 1992. I'm turning 30 this year. And the thing is that when I saw Star Wars as a teenager, it was just fantastic. It was absolutely brilliant. And actually, Star Wars Episode 3 came out a year later than in the U.S., just because there wasn't really traction for Star Wars in Egypt that much. But the thing is that what I loved so much about Star Wars was the Force, the actual Force itself. And then that translated into how to use the Force for good or for bad. And technically, what is bad and what is good, and why, you know, the Jedi were seen as sort of dogma or outdated or, you know, just sort of, you know, traditional or whatever. And then the Sith were seen as sort of passionate. You know, they're not necessarily dictators or forces of power, but obviously they are in terms of Palpatine. But, you know, anyway, here I am talking about Star Wars villains in a light which I haven't seen in any other place, really, because there isn't any other medium or theme that makes me really love villains like Star Wars. Genuinely, this is really what I have to say, honestly. So I wanted to really try to incorporate this where everybody, all listeners in this show, for 1130 Productions and the Star Wars Canon podcast, you know, the way Brian has brought us on to sort of add a little bit of scope to the show, you know, we love what he's done. So we want to bring that a little bit closer to you, where we make this a little bit interactive as well. I'm going to be listing of the villains of Star Wars, okay? Now, some of them you might not have heard of so much. That's actually really important. And some of them you might already know. We'll be giving you a little bit of more light on each character, and we're going to be pitting them against each other in a cool ranking. Hear me out. Cool ranking meaning which one do you think is cooler, stands out, and, you know, is more appealing to you? So if we were to pit two villains against each other, which one would you think would come up top and you would prefer? Now, in later on, we'll also be doing a sort of like a cool wall ranking. But initially, we're going to be doing brackets so that we have a sort of a tournament style within different categories of villains. So initially, we've got Sith Lords. So those will be something like Darth Sidious, Darth Vader, Darth Pelagius, Darth Tyrannus, who's Count Dooku. Miscellaneous force users like Kylo Ren, Darth Maul, etc. Military figures, bounty hunters / enforcers, and general assholes.
You can tell where Jay came up with that.
Oh, this is all. So we were going to do this we're going to do the same concept in a bit of a different format where it was all completely random. But we decided to do this genuinely after Richard J gave us this idea, and it was fantastic. He's spot on with this. He's really a lore master. Genuinely, he is. He's got a huge point in how to do this. You know, it feels a little bit better. It feels it feels like it's got better chemistry is the better word I feel. So we'll be starting tonight with the general assholes tab.
I can't help but laugh every time I hear general assholes in a category, because all I can think of is Spaceballs, where he's like, I'm surrounded by assholes. That's all I can think of every time I hear it.
So here today we'll be starting off with one face off, okay, between two of the general assholes which we have. So we've got 6. I'll list them really quickly right now. We've got Dren Voss, Watto, Sebulba, Jabba the Hutt, Newt Gunray, and Hondo. So the reason why I've chosen these, now we've categorized them as general assholes simply because they don't really fit into any other category. They're not bounty hunters or enforcers. Even though, for example, Jabba the Hutt might be considered a sort of enforcer because he's a mafia boss sort of thing, but he wasn't actually an enforcer. You didn't see him do anything really in Star Wars other than being
an asshole.
He was,
yeah.
You know. Yeah, exactly.
He's being an asshole.
The character that he was. So we'll be having 2 of these tabs. You know, we'll be facing them off. Probably one face off an episode, maybe 2, depending on the time we have, because we've got a lot of content coming out. We want to talk about all that stuff, but we don't want to get too boring or too long an episode for you guys. So we'll be asking you to log on to social media. We'll be creating polls and posts and things, and we'll be waiting for you to vote, hopefully, on these polls and give us your opinions, give us your feedback on this poll. I haven't seen any pages do this. If you have, do let us know. It's very interesting to see your take on this. If you think we're headed in the wrong direction, you want to suggest something else that we do, please do that. This is a podcast. We want to tailor it for you. We want to make this an enjoyable experience, so that we can talk about stuff that you maybe haven't sort of considered before. And we'll give you a little bit of feedback. We'll give you a little bit of background around each character, as I said. So, Brian, let's kick off.
Yeah, let's do this. All right, so we've got a random. We've got wheelofnames.com up right now. We've got those 6 names punched in so that you guys know this is totally random. We're not coming up with these brackets. This is totally random. So this week, and actually I guess this week and then next week, after that we'll know the third one. But for right now, we've got 6 names against each other, and we're going to find out who the first 2 names are. So let's do this. All right, and the first... Cool, it is cool, isn't it? I like that. Oh, man. Oh, this is going to hurt. We have got Hondo Anaka as the first contender. Hondo Anaka. So we're going to take him out. And we are going to hit it again. Here we go. Let's see who Hondo's going up against. Okay, so this one... this one's going to be easy for me, I think. Looks like we've got Watto.
Right.
Watto and Hondo Anaka. So, that's going to be our bracket for this week. Remember, it's not about who would win in a fight. It's who is cooler, which is different.
Exactly.
It's way different because it makes you think more about the character than it does what they can do. And kind of what their, I don't want to say their background, but kind of what their...
Oh, it's everything really. How they
it
carry
is,
themselves, what they could do, how they would transcend sort of Star Wars. Do they enhance the storytelling? Do you like them? Do you like the look of them? Do they make you feel something special? That sort of thing. Would you like to be them? Which of these would you most prefer to be, sort of thing? Are they cool or not? It's just how you feel about them.
Oh yeah, no, absolutely. So, personally, I know who I'm going with. Personally, it's hands down.
I do believe that. I mean, everybody who's ever seen the movies knows who Watto is, obviously.
Right.
Watto was the guy, he's the little flying guy who owned Anakin Skywalker, young Anakin.
Yep.
And Qui-Gon Jinn, so when you see him in Episode 1, Phantom Menace, Qui-Gon Jinn goes to the planet in Tatooine, on Tatooine, excuse me, goes to, the city there, and he deals with Watto just because he needs some spare parts for his ship, and he finds Anakin there enslaved to him and everything. And then you see Watto again in Episode 2. So Watto shows up again a bunch of times later on in comics, and then he finds out, he sort of encounters Darth Vader, doesn't he? And he figures out, apparently, that he's Anakin or something like that.
Did he?
I saw that a bunch of times.
I think you're right.
Yeah. And, he figured out that he was Anakin simply not because of anything other than Darth Vader made a slight comment on something that needed fixing or that it was an error.
I do remember that. Anakin. Yeah, you're right.
Yeah, and he didn't say anything, obviously. He was just shocked because he was already scared shitless just knowing that, this is like a huge Sith Lord or something, like a huge evil guy coming over here. And it's one of the very, very, very rare times where Darth Vader ever, either went back to Tatooine or encountered someone from his past anyway, the first bit. Watto, for all intents and purposes, he seems to be, obviously, he's not just a sleazeball or a traitor or whatever. He does sort of have a heart, whatever you think of, but he's out here to make money. He's a very hard man. He's lived out in the desert his entire life with very sort of like scumbags around him. It's turned him into what he is, Sure, of course, he's a slave owner, so that himself makes him a scumbag. But yeah, it doesn't get bigger in terms of scumbags when you're talking about Hondo. Hondo is awesome.
This asshole.
Hondo. So I just mentioned, right, that I was watching Clone Wars for the first time. And Hondo, when he showed up in Clone Wars, I was like, oh, this is cool. This is a change of pace. And it was a very nice change of pace. He was a huge change of pace, actually. It's different from what we normally see in Star Wars. And then when he kept popping up again and again, I was like, okay, I better watch out for this guy because he's clearly really cool. And he does so much. He does so much. He pops up in Clone Wars a bunch of times.
Oh, yeah.
In more than, I think he pops up in 5 different seasons, actually.
Once he's in, he's in. Yeah, he ended up becoming a regular.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And he pops up, sometimes he pops up in the most opportune spots. Like, okay, what are you doing here at this point in time? Like with a very special, mission here to do. And then
you see his flying saucer. You see his flying saucer pop up, and you're like, "God, here we go! It's the Anaka gang."
You want to know how important Hondo is? He's in Galaxy's Edge. He's at Galaxy's Edge. Like there's this little bit with him there, and he's like you're going through. I think you're either on a boat or like a sort of like a slow roller coaster going in.
I think it's the Smuggler's Run.
Up there with his voice. Yeah, and he's up there with his voice and everything, and it looks really cool. I saw a video of it because Steven, who's with us on the podcast, who's co-host of the Marvelcast podcast, he's busy with some awesome family stuff going on lately.
Oh,
But
yeah.
he went to Galaxy's Edge, and he took a video of that specifically saying, "Look, there he is, Hondo," and by that time I'd already watched Clone Wars. I was like, "Oh shit, it is, and that's amazing." So it does actually make a huge difference.
I love
Hondo is
Hondo.
everything. He's a weapons dealer. He's a mercenary. He's got his own crew. He's got his own fleet. Technically, he goes
yeah.
to planets and stirs shit up politically just so he can get some gain out of it. He's a very, he's very flexible and he's very light. He's not he's not like a crime syndicate or anything. He's funny. He's edgy. He's got like this weird sort of croaky accent. So it sort of makes him feel like, oh, yes, this is my dealing, and this is how I do things.
Actually, that was pretty good.
You are always too good for your own good. Huh?
That's a pretty good, man. That's
Well, I
pretty
haven't
good.
watched him in a long time. I'm not that good with accents.
No,
I
yeah,
might-
damn,
I
that
might
was pretty
just
good.
Butchered him. If you'd like to mail in and say, Usef, that was horrible, please do. Like, I deserve it. But the thing is, right, that he's just really fun. He's really cool. He's really fun. And now Watto's also pretty cool here. So I like this. I like them being pitted up against each
Oh,
other,
yeah.
even if it's random. Because Watto, he does have his own edge. Like, Watto definitely had a lot of potential as well.
Mhm.
If you were thinking about the world of Star Wars, I'm not talking about within the storyline of Star Wars, because the storyline is set, right? You can't
Right.
really talk about, oh, he could have done this, but he didn't. Well, the storyline's a storyline. But yeah, I think Watto also had a lot of potential. If I was someone like Watto, like that would be an amazing spot where you could grow and grow and grow. And do stuff with all the material that came with you. You were betting on pod races. You had Anakin Skywalker as your slave. Like, you could have done literally anything. But anyway, like,
Oh yeah.
yeah. So this is the first bracket. This is what we're kicking off our cool ranking with. We had to go with the funniest category first, general assholes. It's too easy to go for the Sith first, So I love that Brian laughs every time.
I can't help. I just keep thinking of Rick Moranis. I can't help it.
Thank you.
I'm surrounded
Thank
by
you, Richard
assholes.
J. Thank you, Richard.
so
J,
let me-
all the way in Wales for thinking up this category here.
So let me ask you this, Usef. Who is cooler to you? If you
Okay.
had to pick, if you had a blaster to your head and you had to pick, who are you going with?
All right. So who am I going with? I'm gonna say Hondo. The reason being that Hondo actually dealt with some big issues. I mean, Watto had
Yeah.
a lot at his disposal, but he was just staying on Tatooine. He was just a traitor. But yeah, Hondo's pretty cool. Hondo wore sunglasses at one point and a helmet, and he was like, "Oh, that's a badass right there." He wears like this leather jacket and gloves with like the fingertips open and everything. I mean, Watto flies, and he's croaky, and by the way, one of the reasons why Watto to me is incredibly cool, when Qui-Gon Jinn tries to sort of influence him with the Force into
Yes.
agreeing that Republic credits will do fine, he goes, "No,
they won't.
Republic credits will
Yeah.
do fine. No, they won't.
What?
What do you think you're some
kind
sort of Jedi trying to
Yeah.
do these mind tricks? I'm a Targaryen. No, nothing works on me. Only money. This guy's so hard-headed that even a Jedi couldn't manipulate him.
And the look on Qui-Gon's
And
face
he's
is the definition of annoyed. Like
Exactly. Qui-Gon's
Great.
like, what the fuck? Like, seriously?
If-
Yes, no, Watto, like this character, do not underestimate him. And if you think he's cool, bang on. If you think he's cooler, absolutely bang on too. Please hit that vote button. Like make sure that you get your voice heard. Because this is really cool. Hondo versus Watto sort of thing. I think Hondo just edges out Watto for me just because I've seen him more in a different setting. Like he's done more. He's been on other planets. He's got a crew. He's a mercenary. Yeah.
To me, it's hands down Hondo. I adore
Yeah.
Hondo Inaka as a character. I get so excited when I see him pop up somewhere. I'm shocked he hasn't popped up in live action yet. He is the next one on my list that I want to see in live action. Go from.
Cool.
Oh, I take that back. He's the second one on my list right now because next is Thrawn, and I know I'm getting Thrawn, but I don't know if I'm getting Hondo. So I really want to see Hondo in live action. I love this guy, and my favorite, my two favorite moments with him because he was in Rebels also. And my two favorite moments with him in Clone Wars, Ahsoka is stranded on, I don't remember what planet it is. I don't remember what planet it is. Anyway, she's stranded, and the Jedi won't send help. And so Obi-Wan and Anakin are like, I know somebody who could send some weapons and munitions. And they hire Hondo to go take all these supplies to Ahsoka. And she's like, who are these from? And he's like, General Skywalker. And he's like, and a blaster bolt flies past his face. And the first thing out of his mouth is, oh, look at the time. And he turns around to walk back onto his ship to leave.
Exactly.
Just that suave kind of smoothness to him. And then in Rebels, I don't remember which, I think it was season 2, when he popped up with his Ugnaught companion, and they threw him into the sky, and he's like, they do fly. Talking about pigs flying. He's like, they do fly. Hondo, to me, he's got a special place in my heart. I love Hondo Ohnaka. So seeing him pop up, that made me happy.
Talking about that, there's no reason why Hondo wouldn't be, in the show in Mando next season.
It makes total sense that he would be there.
Yeah. I mean, if he would be there, absolutely, it makes total sense. If he's not going to be in there, okay, like there's other directions that they can go in. But there's no reason why he won't be there, genuinely. Right. Especially given how prominent he is. Because he's in the criminal underworld, right? He's not so set in his ways. He's not in one planet. He goes around wheeling, dealing sort of thing, making something out of the universe. And he's just flying low, trying to do his thing. Sometimes flying really high and really showy in front of everyone.
Right.
He really just grabs the attentions of those around him. So, but yeah, I mean, and he's not a bounty hunter. He's just sort of trader / mercenary / dealer sort of thing.
Right. Yeah. No. So those are our options.
Those are the options. That's our first bracket.
Head over to our Facebook page, 1138 Productions. We'll have the bracket up there. We'll have it up on the YouTube channel as well, on the community tab. We'll have it up on Twitter. And you guys can vote on which one you think. Remember, not who would win in a fight, but who is cooler. We're going to try to focus on the positive parts of this, not who could behead each other. We're going to see who is cooler. So head on over there, vote, and next week we'll talk about the results, and we'll drop the next bracket on you guys, the next 2 people going head-to-head. So, very cool intro for that segment, Usef. I'm really excited to see where that ends up going. But we got to move on. So the next thing I want to talk about here is, I used to talk about it on the show quite a bit, and then I kind of stopped. But I think it's something that needs to be talked about each week because there's so much coming out at this point. Upcoming canon. There's stuff that's coming out in the next month and a half. Comics, I think I'm only going to try to stay within the next month because there's so many of them. And those dates are subject to change anyway. They can push a comic back a week or 2 weeks, here and there. But for right now, I want to talk about the upcoming canon that we know about within the next month. Novels, I went ahead and went to the end of the year. And I'm going to keep saying them every week till the end of the year in case, we have a new listener pop in and they're wanting to hear upcoming canon. They don't have to go back 4 episodes to find out what's coming out that week. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's bang on. Yeah,
so right now for novels and upcoming canon, we've got Tempest Runner, which is the script version, the hardback script version of the audio drama by Cavan Scott, following Lorna D. in the High Republic. And it comes out on March 15th, which is next week. Queen's Hope by E.K. Johnston on April 5th. Brotherhood by Mike Chen on May 10th. Stories of Jedi and Sith on June 7th, which is going to be a short story anthology. Yeah, it's going to be really good. Shadow of the Sith by Adam Christopher on June 28th. That is my number one anticipated piece of Star Wars material this year.
It's going to be awesome.
I can't wait for that book. Padawan by Kirsten White on July 26th.
We're all going to read that no matter what we do.
Oh, yeah. The Princess and the Scoundrel by Beth Revis on August 16th. This next one I'm really excited for is Star Wars Insider Fiction Collection, The High Republic Volume 1 on October 4th. This is going to be a collection of all the short stories from the Star Wars Insider magazine, all collected in one area, so you can actually read these outside of the magazine. And then we are kicking off Phase 2 of The High Republic with the Del Rey novel Convergence by Zoraida Cordova on October 4th. The High Republic Quest for the Hidden City by George Mann, October 4th. And then in November, we've got Hunters, Battle for the Arena by Mark Oshiro on November 1st. That's going to be a tie-in novel with the mobile game Hunters that's coming out. And then on November 1st, we're also getting The High Republic Path of Deceit by Justina Ireland and Tessa Gratton. So we have got a lot of novels this year to look forward to. As far as comics go, I'm only going to go a month out because, like I said, these dates can change, and there's so many of them. Halcyon Legacy number 2 is on March 16th. Dr. Aphra number 19 on March 23rd. Also on March 23rd is Darth Vader number 21. Bounty Hunters number 21 is March 30th. Bounty Hunters number 22 is April 6th. Star Wars number 22 is April 6th. And Crimson Reign number 4 will be April 6th. So there's your comics for the next month. As far as television goes, we all know what's coming in May, on May 25th, Obi-Wan Kenobi. As far as video games go, I'm really excited for this. Yes, I know that this video game isn't necessarily canon. It's Lego Star Wars: The Skywalker Saga. But I am so looking forward to this game. Excuse me. That I look, the reason I talk about it on a Canon podcast is because when Lego The Force Awakens came out, there was a mission that you could play that was the Lego version of the C-3PO comic, The Phantom Limb, which I hated. I despise that comic. And to play it in Lego was hilarious. It was a blast to play it in Lego. But the fact that they put a canon story in there leads me to believe that the other stories in there could possibly be canon. So I'm assuming that anything extra they added to the Skywalker Saga and this story-wise is going to be like canon adjacent. You know what I mean? Where it's not, the story is there, but like the Lego humor didn't happen. You know what I'm saying? But the story itself is canon. So that's why I'm talking about it. But it comes out on April 5th. I cannot wait for this game. That's going to be the game that gets me to fire back up on the gaming videos for 1138 Productions. So we've got that to look forward to. That's our upcoming canon. We'll talk about that every week, and I think next week we'll end up crossing one of the novels off. I think it's the Tempest Runner we'll cross off. And who knows, we'll add more to it, and this list will evolve as the year goes by. So really looking forward to everything that's coming out. And like you said at the beginning, at the top of the show, man, it's a great time to be a Star Wars fan. There's so much coming out that
there's just so much
great
in all different sorts of mediums. I mean, Lego is just going to be fun. If you just wanted to relive some old Lego stuff, like if you don't really care about the debates and the new content and stuff, that's perfectly fine. I get you. Star Wars is core for you because you went through it and you love the story so much. You're going to enjoy it a lot with the Lego. This is going to be fun.
Oh, yeah.
It's a lot of good family fun as well. If you have not played the Lego game and you think it's silly, I genuinely implore you to please try it out. Even if you're trying out at a friend's or go to the store or watch a YouTube watch a YouTube video of like a dad and his kid just play the game together. You need zero PlayStation skills or PC skills or Nintendo or Xbox, whatever. You just need to have fun, genuinely.
I can't wait for that game. Because when I tell people, when I met my buddy Kyle, he was asking what kind of video games you play, and I'm like, Batman Arkham, Assassin's Creed, and Lego games. Don't judge me, because the Lego games are absolutely a blast. They're hilarious. So yeah, I'm looking forward to this. I can't wait. And I'm counting down the days. Like, it's less than a month away. I can't wait. Anyway, a month from now we'll probably be playing. A month from now we're going to be recording this podcast, and then I'm going to get off, and then I'm going to get it editing. I'm going to get it exporting, and then I'm going to go play Lego Skywalker Saga. You think I'm playing? It's going to eat up all my time. So I can't wait. Moving on, we got one more segment to talk about tonight, and that is Mailbag Questions. This is the part of the show where you guys get to voice your opinions and kind of test us a little bit to see what we know about Star Wars. So how do you guys get a question on the Star Wars Canon Podcast? You can email us at starwarscanonpodcast@gmail.com, or you can visit 1138productions.com/contact. You can send us a message through there as well. Each week we'll go through and pick out a few. And we'll talk about them right here on the episode. So this week we've got 4 questions. It was only going to be 3, and then a last-minute one came in when I was putting the show notes together that I couldn't leave out. So we've got 4 good questions this week, and let's just jump into it, man. So the first question this week comes from Dan McGuire, and Dan says, "Hey there, fellow Star Wars fans. I just found your show on Apple Podcasts, and I love it. You guys have a true passion for Star Wars, and it shows. Keep up the great work." Thanks for the kind words, Dan. Appreciate it. My question concerns headcanon. What are your thoughts on believing something is canon until it's confirmed not to be? I would love to hear your thoughts. Can't wait to see where you guys go in the future. Thanks for the question, Dan. Usef, do you have anything in your head that you consider headcanon?
The way I think about this, because we covered this just a little bit together, like on our own, because I was worried about canon because I got into Star Wars much later than my fellow colleagues on 1138 Productions. So, they've all dived into Legends before and other kinds of canon material, which later Disney had retconned as being not canon. So unfortunately for me, that is, because there's so much material to try to catch up on, I only look at stuff that is declared canon. So because I don't want to get sidetracked by Legend stuff, I'm hardly keeping up with the canon stuff anyway, because it is a lot of content, and I'm still trying to get at it. I only
There's so
just
much.
watched Clone Wars
Yeah.
a few months ago. So the thing is that I don't, I understand where you're coming from, of course. However, anything that is canon until it's confirmed not to be, well, I think we already got a huge answer, because this sort of new era, sort of like a new start line for Star Wars, where you sort of just like take everything that you want in your backpack and then leave the rest to sort of like legend / fan fiction / other fiction sort of thing in Star Wars. So I think we already have what is defined as canon. What do you think, Brad?
I'm with you. I try to do my best. I'm really OCD when it comes to keeping stuff in order, hence the timeline, like how tedious it is. But I really try to keep everything straight. I've tried going back and reading Legends novels while in the middle of canon novels, and it's hard. For some reason, my stupid lizard brain can't differentiate canon from non-canon. That doesn't mean I'm not going to go back and read Legends novels eventually. It's just for some reason, I have a hard time differentiating the two. I don't want to say I can't stand the word headcanon, because I value other people's opinions. You know, if they say, I want this to be my headcanon, in my head, this is what happened, that's fine. Nobody's going to take that from you. I can't take that from you. But what I try to stick to is what is legally Disney's canon. You know what I'm saying? And don't get me wrong, there's pieces of it that I'm not a fan of. But to me, it's canon. And to think that something is canon, this is just me personally. I'm not saying you're wrong, Dan, if this is the way you feel. Me personally, I think it's, what's the word I'm looking for? I don't want to say dangerous, because it's not dangerous. It's counterproductive, maybe be the word I'm thinking of. I don't know. There are things in Legends that I would love to see brought into canon. The Bane trilogy, Darth Bane. We know Darth Bane as a character is canon, but his novels, his trilogy, those stories are not necessarily canon until they're said they are. As much as I want to believe that they're canon, I can't sit there and honestly say these happened until Disney confirms that they happened. Things that have been retcon, I shouldn't say retcon, but things that have been confirmed so far to not be canon, like Shadows of the Empire, it breaks my heart to say that there's no way that can ever be canon now, as it sits at this moment. There's no way. There are things that happen in that novel, like Leia getting the Bausch bounty hunter outfit from Guri, Prince Shizor's not cyborg. I think she was a cyborg. Her android, or his android. And now in canon, she got it from Maz Kanata to go rescue Han. So there are certain things that you can't say that's canon until they prove it's not. I'm of the mindset nothing is canon until they make it canon. So I'm on the far other end of the spectrum from maybe where you're at. Not necessarily saying that you're wrong or that's a bad thing, but for me personally, to keep everything straight in my head, I have to, like, as straight as an arrow, stick to what I know is official canon. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I gotcha. So yeah, because of this new era stuff that we're dealing with, what Brian's basically saying is exactly what he just made out to be. He's considering everything to be, unconfirmed until basically, hey, this is released, this is canon.
Right.
Okay, cool. So this is for sure, this is canon. Therefore, we're reading this and making sure it's canon. And I hate the fact, like you just said, I hate the fact that there's great content out there that unfortunately has been removed.
Yeah.
And, I sort of understand why. I mean, for those of you who don't understand the big difference between what is Legends or what is canon, what isn't canon, for example, you might not know that Luke Skywalker and one version of him, I suppose, got married. And, or perhaps not got married, but had a serious relationship with a girl who was a very force-sensitive person, and she was a Sith, and this is just mind-boggling, right? But then this is not canon, so well, technically this didn't happen anymore. But it's funny to think that it did, and somebody who was an official author wrote that it did. It wasn't fan fiction; it was actual written stuff here.
Mm-hmm.
So this is just something. It's just one of the examples. Others could be like a huge campaign with different fighter jets going off and doing stuff. Han Solo, Leia, all of the characters were involved in this kind of stuff.
Yeah. So I don't consider anything canon until I don't even try to think about what could end up being canon or what could be brought into canon, except for Darth Bane. I swear to God, they need to make that trilogy canon. But I'm of the mentality right now.
All of Thrawn
it
is
sucks.
canon.
Oh yeah.
All of Thrawn is canon. So that's really important. I recommend. I'm going to start reading Thrawn soon. So I hope everybody.
Oh,
does
dude,
as
you're gonna
well.
have a blast with the Thrawn trilogies. They're so
Yeah.
good. But I hope that answers your question, Dan. That's kind of where we stand on the words headcanon.
It's a really good question. It's really
it is a good
important
question.
going
It's a very good question because there's a lot of theories out there that I would really like to buy into concerning Star Wars, and I'm like, ooh. And there's a lot of people that are like, I totally believe that this is what was going on behind the scenes. That's fine, go for it. But I'm going to wait until we get an official story, if we ever get an official story. Kind of like, here's a good example. Boba Fett. Did he survive the Sarlacc pit? Before The Mandalorian came out, nobody freaking knew. Nobody had a clue on whether or not he survived the pit. So I stuck with, he died. Like, as much as I said, we know he got out. Until the Aftermath novels came along and they had his armor on a Jawa sandcrawler when Cobb Vanth found his armor. And I'm like, oh, okay, so he definitely got out. That right there tells me, yes, he did get out. And so now that we've got that full story of how he got out and, went back to try to basically get even with the freaking thing, dropped a seismic charge down its gullet. I mean, that's awesome. Don't get me wrong. That's awesome. But we didn't know whether or not he survived until it was finally confirmed for us. So I just take it as it comes. To sum up in a nutshell, just take it as it comes, roll with the punches, accept everything they give us with a smile and a thank you. And please, sir, can I have some more? Some more, please. A little more, please, more. So that's where I'm at. But thanks for the question, Dan. Do appreciate it. And thanks for being a listener, man. I'm really glad you found the show. Question number 2 this week comes from Renee Jennings, and Renee says, is there anything in canon so far that says Obi-Wan and Vader never met between episodes 3 and 4? Basically, if they have an actual rematch in the Kenobi series, does it break canon or retcon anything? I'm a little nervous that we could be on the brink of the biggest retcon in Star Wars history. Thanks for building a great community of fans. Thanks for the question, Renee.
This is a direct follow. It's sort of like it has a lot of, it's linked to the question, to the first question we just spoke about. Like you have all the right keywords there.
This is what I was wanting to talk about earlier when we were talking about Obi-Wan, and I said we were going to hold off on talking about it till now. What do you think, Usef? Do you think if Obi-Wan and Vader come face to face, that is going to break anything in canon?
No, I don't, and I'm really excited to see this. So basically, up until now, there is no meeting. There's nothing official that's canon. I don't think even anything official that isn't canon, actually. Anything unofficial, excuse me, that isn't canon. Of Obi-Wan and Vader meeting ever between episode 3 and 4. Okay. I don't think that exists. I don't think that it's ever been done, whether it's canon or not canon. Definitely not canon. Maybe there is something that isn't canon and I just don't know about it. But definitely not in canon. So the thing is that I would love to see this. Of course I would. Does it fall in line with episode 4 or in 5 and 6 and the events? It could do, because in episode 4, whenever they first met, it didn't seem like it was the first meeting since episode 3, when you've taken episode 3 into account. And then in episode 6, when by the way, this was just an impression I had, but in episode 6, Vader speaks to Luke. And he says, Obi-Wan once thought as you did.
Right.
When Luke tells him that, there's still good in you, Father. So this statement, right? So Obi-Wan once thought as you did, that there is still good in you. That means that Obi-Wan might have confronted him when he was already bad, when he was Sith.
Mm-hmm.
So, because up until, the last moment, this is one of my favorite moments, by the way, in Star Wars. The last moment Obi-Wan saw Anakin. Right, because then when he met him on Mustafar, he was no longer Anakin; he was already Vader.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So this moment when he says, "And you, my friend, may the Force be with you," and he says to Anakin, "You've grown to be a fine young Jedi, and you'll be a master soon. Like, don't worry about it. You got this, brother." Like literally, that's what I felt him say. And Anakin's just smiling at him, and I'll see you soon. All right, I'm gonna miss you, sort of thing. And there's nothing wrong there. Anakin doesn't feel like he wants to tell him that, I've been speaking to Palpatine about this. I've been having visions. He's just like, this is my brother. I'm going to see him soon. So none of that screams out Obi-Wan once fought as you did, right?
Right.
So this, I think, I don't want to get my hopes up, but I think they're going to aim for it. I think they're going to give us this. Do you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
They're going to give us a sort of showdown. And you know what? I wouldn't be disappointed if I didn't get a physical fight, a showdown. I would not be disappointed, not at all. I would actually love to see them communicate through the Force, genuinely. I'm sorry, I'm speculating now. So to answer your question, yeah, it's there's nothing in canon that says that Obi-Wan never met. By the way, it's just simply nothing in canon that says that they have met. So this isn't going to break canon.
No,
but it is potentially going to be really in line with what's already happened.
I think that the opposite is going to happen. I think there's enough in canon in the films alone that allows for them to see each other again in between. What you were saying with Vader saying Obi-Wan once thought as you did, trying to say there's still good in him, and Obi-Wan, when he's kind of, you can see the flashbacks happening in his mind. You don't see the flashbacks, but you can tell he's reliving everything in A New Hope when he's telling Luke, what happened to him, and saying, he's more machine now than man, twisted and evil.
Oh yeah, there's a
how does he know that?
Fan-made video. Yeah, how does he know that exactly? There's a great fan-made video of this, of Obi-Wan talking, and then he's like flashbacking,
having the PTSD flashbacks,
of episode 3 and stuff. It's so cool. It gives me chills sometimes with the music and stuff. The fan-made video is amazing. But Star Wars fans are some of the best, honestly. But yeah, exactly as you just said, like, how does he know that too? In episode 4, he's more machine now than man. Even if Obi-Wan heard of this person, Vader or whatever it is, and he could have figured that this was him, Obi-Wan wouldn't make a statement like that unless he came across him himself.
Here's another thing too. Consider this. So on Tatooine, Obi-Wan's out in the middle of literally BF nowhere, right?
Right.
And I'm sure he thought, when he left Anakin, he was leaving him for dead. He just didn't have the heart to finish it himself. He just left him for dead. He walked off.
Exactly.
And so living on Tatooine, because remember Vader, nobody in the galaxy knew who Vader was. There were people who thought he was a myth. There were people who, there's no such thing. You know what I'm saying? Like, he was this boogeyman that nobody ever saw. A very small percentage of the galaxy ever saw Darth Vader himself. It wasn't like the entire galaxy was being gripped by, fear of this black enforcer. You know what I'm saying? Like, he was a myth. Not everybody even believed he existed. So Obi-Wan on Tatooine, out in the middle of nowhere, where, we don't know if there was an Imperial garrison on Tatooine at the time. We know there was in A New Hope because they were looking for the droids. So if there's no Imperials around and everybody's going about their business on Tatooine, does he even know that Vader is still alive? You know what I'm saying? Because think of what Ahsoka said. She said at one point she tried to reach out for Anakin's presence after episode 3 and couldn't feel him because Anakin was no more. Obi-Wan wouldn't have been able to feel him either. And it leads me to believe, it does, doesn't it? And it leads me to believe that he's going to find out in this series that Vader is still alive. And then and maybe it's his guilt that brings him to want to come face to face with Anakin again and try one more time. And, this awesome showdown happens. Limbs get chopped off. That's when Obi-Wan realizes, he's more machine now. In the suit that he's in isn't just for, it's a life support system. You know what I'm saying? Like, I think there's more in canon that supports them meeting again than there is anything that says they can't. So it's not going to break canon. And besides, you've got Dave Filoni on your team. You really think Filoni's going to let anything break canon? You know what I'm saying? Like, there's nothing that he's going to do to F everything up. You know what I'm saying? So
I think Star Wars is his Bible. Like,
I think so. Yeah,
his Bible.
I completely agree. Yeah. So
he's part written it himself.
He has.
Like Josiah.
He's been in charge of a good portion of it. So and it's the best portions. if you ask me. So I hope that answers your question, Renee. Thanks for sending it in. Question number 3 this week comes from Ashley May. And Ashley says, in The Mandalorian, I like this question. This is going to be a very interesting one. In The Mandalorian, we hear Boba Fett say that his father's armor is his birthright as a Mandalorian. But Boba was a clone of Jango. Do you consider Boba as offspring from Jango or just a copy? And what implications does that have on Star Wars as a whole, if any exist? I love you guys and what you're doing for Star Wars. May the Force be with you. Thank you for the kind words, Ashley. I like this question a lot because there are other implications in Star Wars that an answer to this question would directly affect. So is Boba just a clone, or is he his own person that's basically Jango with different life experiences? I'm going to say that by birthright, I don't know if I buy it or not, because you could go to the Mandalorians could go to the Kaminoans, right, and say, we want 50 clones of all of us, and they're all Mandalorian by birthright.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? You can't just keep a creed going, and I don't want to say a bloodline, but a people going like that, and say, especially with the culture that the Mandalorians have, where it's a birthright, you have to earn this, or this part's a birthright. You can't just go and say, I want to make a copy of myself and just give everything I've earned to it. You know what I'm saying? But what's interesting about this question is the implications it has. Because look at Rey and Palpatine. If Rey is the daughter of a Palpatine clone, is she really Palpatine's granddaughter? Or is she the pseudo-daughter of a clone of Palpatine? You know what I'm saying? So it's really interesting. There are a lot of implications on this. What are your thoughts, man?
Yeah, exactly. This is really good, your line of thinking, because maybe, oh, you're my granddaughter once removed. And no,
Right.
I don't think it's that. Like, I think it's more. So, okay, in terms of the term birthright, yeah, I'm just like you. I have a problem with this term birthright. However, is Boba Jango's son? I actually think so. As in, I know this is not the same sort of thing, but hear me out. So I think that Jango, he specifically, the only thing he asked of the Kaminoans was that he wanted an unaltered clone of himself. So a clone that did not have the rapid growth gene, that, wouldn't grow faster and so on.
Didn't have the inhibitor
That
chip.
he could, yeah, exactly. So he could basically raise Boba. And he did, up until he got his head chopped off by Mace Windu.
Dun, dun, dun.
So up until then, he's basically got a son, and that's what he wanted, right? That's what Jango wanted. He wanted a son. He wanted a son. He wanted to raise someone. He wanted a partner. He wanted to grow up with. He wanted to teach him, and he did so much with him as well. Like, he learned a lot from.
Oh yeah.
He learned a lot from Jango, and there's a lot of material there as well. Some stuff in comics, which I really loved. By the way, I had a comic recently. One of my first actually to read for Star Wars, which showed sort of like an experience for Boba trying to prove to his father that he could do it, that he could do stuff.
Oh, I remember that comic. I loved that comic. I wanted
I love it.
I wanted a series based off of it. I remember that.
That was fantastic.
It was
fantastic.
It was the Django Fett comic, The Age of the Republic.
Age of Republic.
Yeah,
exactly.
I remember that. Oh, it was so good.
It was beautiful. It was absolutely beautiful. So, and it was very short as well. It's short and sweet, like really sweet. Hit the point. It hit the nail on the head, really, of the relationship between Jango and Boba.
Mm-hmm.
So, no, I do think that Boba is Jango's son. Like, that is a relationship. That is a father-son relationship. Okay, and he may not have had to, have a mother or birth him. The relationship is father and son, clear cut, in my opinion. Whether or not it's his birthright, well, maybe he sees it as birthright because of this relationship.
Bo-Katan seemed to have an issue with it, though.
I'm sorry, say that again?
Bo-Katan seemed to have an issue with it.
Bo-Katan seemed to have an issue, of course. Because, Bo-Katan seemed to have an issue because of the concept that it's Mandalorian armor, and you have a birthright to Mandalorian armor where you were not Mandalorians. When Jango was a bounty hunter, he was not Mandalorian. Or was he?
Well, I think they confirmed that he was Mandalorian.
Exactly. So if he is Mandalorian, now Boba, Jango's son, does he get to be Mandalorian then automatically? Or because, he never he never hung out with Mandalorians. He never swore the creed. He never got trained by them or anything. He had his own sort of life path going off somewhere else. So, yeah, this is kind of a up to interpretation thing until it's canon, until it's defined by canon, really. You know, I would say I would say he has claim to it because it was his father's, so it's sort of like his inheritance.
But how can you have a birthright if you're never born?
I think simply because like the term birthright here does not have to, in my opinion at least, does not have to refer to you being born. It could just simply be because he's your son, right? So if I was adopted and then my father left me something, technically that's my inheritance, right? It technically isn't birthright either, but then that's what they mean, right?
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I mean, that's just a term, right? Birthright. Because he wasn't born either. So, I mean, Star Wars used the term birthright themselves.
Right.
I mean, maybe they're going to go back and say, oh, we shot ourselves in the foot in that one. How about we bring him in? How about we bring him in, just edit out this sort of statement here, just make him say, it's my right. And then they edit out the term birth, for example, or something. They might do that later down the line. They might have done that already. I mean, we'll see. Maybe you can go rewatch that season and see. Maybe they might have edited it or something. But, yeah, my short answer is, yeah, cool. I could consider, like, I'm okay with that. I'm okay with him seeing that that's his right / birthright / inheritance. But not because he's Mandalorian, because he was born out of, he was created and then raised. He was created out of Jango's genes and cells and whatever, and he was raised by him. And that's a father-son relationship. And that's something that no other clone has. You know, nobody has a relationship with the original, with Jango, other than Boba.
Fair enough.
That's my 2 cents.
The clones, but yeah, no, that relationship, yeah, no, those two, you're right. That was very much a father-son relationship. But I don't know, man. Now it's got me thinking, like, second guessing a bunch of stuff. Like, I'm questioning my whole existence now, because like it's a good question. Because going back to the Rey Palpatine thing, if you have a clone of yourself, let's say I clone myself, and that clone grows up and has a daughter, is that daughter my granddaughter? Or is that just the daughter of a byproduct of my body? You know what I'm saying? Like, it's weird.
Yeah, I completely know what you're saying. According to the logic which I just used, if I was going to base it off the own logic which I just made, remember the clones which they found in Clone Wars off of different planets, and they had different lives, and they had deserted and or sort of like forgotten. Some of them even had like amnesia. They had forgotten that they were soldiers in the first place.
Right.
And then, you know, they would have married someone and had a daughter or son or whatever. So no, I would not consider those grandchildren of Jango Fett. I would consider them, you know, offspring of a clone which they had. But because of that relationship of father-son, if Boba has a son now, or a daughter or something, it doesn't have to be with Fennec Shand, it could be with anyone, but if Boba has an offspring now.
Okay, so then does that mean that Rey isn't actually a Palpatine?
So, I mean, I don't think so. According to my logic, because...
According to that logic, she wouldn't even be related to the Emperor at all.
Right, because she was just gotten from a sort of clone from, you know...
Right.
Yeah.
Because it's interesting, because the part I like the best is what implications does it have on Star Wars. There are a crap load of implications that this one decision has. So I think it's a great question. And honestly, I don't know which way to go on it, to be completely honest. I have no idea which way I want to go on it. I do think a lot of what you said, though, well, especially with the relationship, I do agree with a lot of that. So I don't know. It's a really good question, though. So
that's a pretty big gray area. Ashley's just sort of thrown in our face.
She did.
I know.
Yeah.
I know you didn't mean to do that, Ashley. I'm just saying that it is something worth thinking about, and it's a very interesting question. Well done. Thanks for the question.
Absolutely. Yeah. Thanks for the question, Ashley. And the last question. This is the question that got thrown in after the notes were made. This question came in
last second,
like at the wire, like down to the wire. So question number 4 this week comes from Leslie Thompson. And Leslie asks, I saw this question on a TikTok and wanted to see your reaction to it. Since we know Vader and Obi-Wan are going to have a rematch, and Disney usually keeps big events close to their chest, is it possible the big fight in the series could be Obi-Wan versus Palpatine? I didn't think about this, because think about the way Disney markets their stuff. They keep massive events in their shows really close to the chest. They want fans to be surprised at massive reveals and huge spoilers. You have to admit, Disney puts some huge spoilers in their shows.
Oh, yeah.
And from the get-go, we've known for a year and a half that Obi-Wan and Vader were going to cross sabers again. So why is it like, is this like a sleight of hand thing? Like, look what this hand's doing so you don't see what this one's doing? Or, I don't know, because I swear to God, Usef, I swear to God, I swear as God is my witness, if Obi-Wan beats the shit out of Vader, and then Palpatine walks in, all Yoda style in Episode 3, like, "Hey, new apprentice, I hear you have," and those two go toe to toe, I will defecate where I stand. I'm going to lose my. I'm sorry for my language. I'm going to lose my fucking mind because I will. I won't even. I can't even wrap my stupid brain. It's liquefying just thinking of the concept of Obi-Wan versus Palpatine. Do you think that, not necessarily Obi-Wan versus Palpatine, Usef, I'm not going to throw that at you, but do you think that there could be a bigger fight or a bigger spoiler in the show somewhere other than Obi-Wan versus Vader?
Initially, no. I don't think it's going to happen. I want it to happen. I just said so myself. Like, I'm dying. I am a huge fan of villains. I love Darth Sidious, Palpatine. He is one of the biggest baddies I have ever seen. I want to see him, especially. So this is where we are, right? We're just coming off of Revenge of the Sith. We're just coming off of Palpatine and Vader, and Palpatine winning against Yoda. He did. Like, he just did. He beat him. He beat Master Yoda, and Vader lost. And so this is where we are. We get to see perhaps Obi-Wan exact a tiny little bit of, not revenge, because that's not his way, but sort of like get a little bit of payback as well. Like, look at all this shit you're doing in the galaxy. Look at what you're doing. You've turned your back on us, on all of us, and everything. That's what I want to see. I want to see Obi-Wan against Vader, but at least emotionally. It doesn't have to be physically. I mean, Obi-Wan against Palpatine. Wow. Okay, if I had to predict this happening, I would have to say no, it's not going to happen, because if you've read some Palpatine stuff, and also this, by the way, is kept really close to the chest. I mean, the thing about villains, amazing villains like these, is that you can never get enough of them, because their content is so limited on purpose, because they're always shrouded in mystery. And then if you keep getting more of them, then there's no more mystery, and they're not as cool.
Right.
So a part of that mystery is what keeps them being so cool and so powerful, because they're always unveiling something more powerful, which you never knew. Of course you never knew, because you've never actually seen them unleash their entire power. So when you, for example, read Lords of the Sith and you see Palpatine, he's like grinning, a sly grin, looking at Vader. He's just watching Vader sort of calculate his next move, how to impress his master, and so on. He's just so well calculated, this guy. Sidious would never, ever fight someone he didn't have to. He knows he's already won. He would never just sort of, put himself in front of Obi-Wan. There's nothing. He has nothing to gain by doing that. He's already won. He's already in the driver's seat. And if Obi-Wan wins and he loses, then that's it. Like, there's no point. He just lost so much. That's a huge risk for him. But at the same time, he wants Vader to push himself to really take on Obi-Wan, especially because he wants Vader to prove that he's better than his master. Because otherwise, if Vader loses, he'd be like, okay, fuck it. Like, I could just get another apprentice or whatever. Because Vader, he was already extremely disappointed in Vader in the first place. If you've read the Vader run, the comics, which started as soon as Vader became Vader, Sidious tore him to pieces. He knocked him down worse than he was already down.
Yeah.
He made him embarrassed to be the fact that he lost to Obi-Wan, that he lost his limbs, that he was feeling pain, and he made him know that he was going to damn sure feel this pain for a long, long, long time and remain in pain because of it. Sidious just torments Vader regularly. And part of that torment is to sort of push him on to face a Force-sensitive user, ex-Jedi or Grey Jedi or other people or whatever, and go off and kill someone and make your new lightsaber and do whatever, initiation after initiation after initiation. So, or jumping through hoops or challenges, whatever it is, whatever you want to call it. So yeah, if I had to predict whether or not it would happen, I don't think it would happen. Maybe it comes by in a way which, at a curveball sort of thing. So maybe he's in the same room as them. Maybe he senses them through the Force.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe Palpatine in the same way. So these, there's some things which happen here which might come back into play. So remember how Snoke, who is a manifestation of Darth Sidious, right?
Right.
Well, not a manifestation of him. He's created by Darth Sidious technically. Remember how he sort of put Rey and Kylo Ren through the Force? He connected them.
Mm-hmm.
What if Palpatine does that between Obi-Wan and Vader?
Oh, yeah.
And he's listening in. So he knows. Because Palpatine knows how to do this, right? We've seen him do it before. Technically, he was the one telling Snoke to do this so that means that Palpatine can do it himself. There's nothing that Snoke can do that Palpatine can't. There's nothing that any Force user can do which Palpatine can't. That's my opinion, to be honest. I know this is not strictly canon what I just said, but that's my opinion, if I'm honest. I think that Darth Sidious is the most powerful being which we have seen sort of as a Force user. Apart from obviously other characters which we've seen in Star Wars, like the Force ghosts and the sort of representation of the light and the dark and so on, which were in Clone Wars and things like that. But Darth Sidious, he could have done that. He could bridge them together and see what's what and try to connect to them. Maybe. What I really want to see is Qui-Gon warning Obi-Wan that something like this could happen.
Oh yeah.
I'm speculating again, man. Obi-Wan's got me speculating so much.
It's easy to do, man. I think I agree with you, which sucks because
I'm sorry.
No, you're good. I need to temper my expectations a little bit. I don't need to be one of those guys, but I am almost convinced that at some point we're going to see the Emperor pop up in this series. Once Vader finds out Kenobi is still alive, I think you're going to see Vader saying something to Palpatine about it. And to see him pop, it's going to be bone chilling. And I can't wait for it. So, yeah,
I think because I'm going to ask you something which I'm not very well knowledgeable about. So Obi-Wan, how did he technically stay clear of anyone while he was hidden on Tatooine? Now, of course, because Tatooine in itself is like one of the last places where anyone would ever consider, looking for.
Well, technically,
Obi-Wan. That's sort of
technically he didn't. He did get into some trouble. There's I don't remember what numbers they were. I want to say Star Wars. The first Star Wars comic run, issue 7. I want to say 15 and 21, maybe. I might have those numbers wrong, but that sounds right. But they were basically a trilogy of comics in and of themselves as single issues, and they were Obi-Wan on Tatooine in between episodes 3 and 4, and it's him watching over Luke, and he's getting parts for Luke to tinker with and leaving them on the doorstep of the Lars homestead for Luke and stuff like that. And he drops off a box of parts for Luke at one point, and Owen comes to his hut and confronts him about it and gives the parts back to him and tells him to stay away from Luke and he's nothing but trouble. But during that whole time, Obi-Wan's causing trouble for like Jabba the Hutt and his gang. There was a group going around getting a water tax and stuff, and so they sent people out to go assassinate Obi-Wan, this crazy hermit out in the desert. So he wasn't entirely laying low completely, right? Yeah, because there was a line in that comic that I remember very vividly. It was, Master Qui-Gon taught me how to be a Jedi, but he never taught me how to not be a Jedi. And so he can't help it. Like in the trailer, you hear the Inquisitor saying, the Jedi quote is like an itch. A Jedi has to be a Jedi. There's no way around it. They have to. It's just part of their nature. And Obi-Wan saying that, it brings it all full circle. So yeah, he wasn't entirely laying low. And we don't know what's going to happen in the Kenobi series. Apparently the Inquisitors get after him, so he wasn't laying low that great. So
I mean, I'm really like, what happens if he's on this other planet, and then Darth Vader's in his destroyer, up hovering above the planet or orbiting or whatever, and then what happens is he sort of just all of a sudden appears on the planet, takes out an Inquisitor, and his lightsaber comes on, and then immediately Darth Vader's like, "What?" And he feels it.
I think
it's like you can just see his helmet tilt up, sort of thing, like Vader's helmet tilts up and he looks to the left to the screen.
What the hell?
What's going on down there?
Yeah.
Oh, another thing, by the way, which, you know, Darth Vader, I can just keep talking about this for ages.
I know, we could talk about it forever, yeah.
Vader, we need to get as much live-action Vader as we can before... I don't mean this in a morbid way, I promise.
I know what you mean, yeah.
Yeah, before, you know, the wonderful, 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 amazing voice actor.
While we still have
before
him,
anything happens to him, why we still have him? Because he's just an amazing guy.
Oh, he's
Anybody
amazing.
Who doesn't realize he's absolutely amazing, and we can tell obviously the change in his voice, because when you saw him reenacting Vader's voice in Rogue One, it was of course changed, and there were a lot of comments about that, but there weren't many because everybody was just happy to see him in the first
even
place.
Though his voice was very synthesized, or I shouldn't say synthesized, but processed.
Yeah, I know what you mean. Like
you could still hear the age. Yeah, you could still hear the age in his voice.
The sort of breathe out.
Even in Rebels,
a little bit older.
Even in Rebels, you could hear it.
Yeah.
And so I agree with you. We need to get as much as we can. I'm not saying milk that cow for everything it's worth. I'm not saying that, but I'm just saying, you know, I'm sure, God forbid, when the day comes, which I don't even want to talk about it, but when we get to that point, I'm sure we're still going to be able to have Vader stuff. But it's
I really do want to, because I would hate to have him and have anybody else do his voice, because we've all done Darth Vader impressions.
Yeah,
but I mean,
you know,
like James
death is a natural part of life. So
death is a natural part of life. We all pass through it.
Yeah.
It's just the circle of life.
Well, guys, it's been a hell of an episode. We just hit the hour-and-a-half mark, brother. I think it's been a great show, and we could sit here and talk Obi-Wan all night, but we need to wrap it up at some point. I know it's 7:45 at night where I'm at right now. I know you're 8 hours ahead of me, so I know it's late where you're at. So
7:45, so it's about 3:45 in the morning over here.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, it's absolutely worth it, and I appreciate you doing this a little bit earlier than usual, but we could always talk Star Wars forever. We were really happy to have you guys. Please tune in again and again, and join in on the voting polls. Get your mailbag questions in. If we said anything, even if you don't have a question about it, you just want to shoot us a message, whether you agree or disagree with anything you said, please just send them our way. We love hearing this stuff.
Oh yeah, we love hearing from you guys. Absolutely. I'll make sure all the links for the social media polls are in the description of this podcast for you guys, easily to find.
Nice.
I will make sure all that's in there. So don't forget, we're here every week talking about our favorite thing in the world on Anchor.fm, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and more. Be sure to visit 1138productions.com for this show, the Marvel Cast, and more coming very soon. I'm really close to getting 1138 Talk Radio ready to go. My father-in-law was making radio... what's the word I'm looking for? Bumpers? I think that's the word I'm looking for. Radio bumpers and stuff like that for it. So and they're turning out awesome. I have to say there's some that are really freaking awesome. So that's going to be coming very soon. If you'd like to support us and our content, please check out patreon.com/1138productions and show some love there. All of those links will be found in the description of this show on whatever platform you're listening in on. And until next week, keep it civil and may the Force be with you guys.